platform, it is possible to focus on specific sites, providing real-time data. XNatura integrates artificial intelligence, IoT sensors, satellite technologies, and cloud computing to provide advanced environmental analysis and precision engineering tools. Landscapes are constantly evolving, shaped by both nature and human activity. Understanding and monitoring these impacts is essential to preserving biodiversity. Data alone is not enough. Human expertise makes the difference. The combination of IoT sensors, AI, and experts ensures that insights are accessible and usable by all stakeholders, supporting informed strategies. From assessment to regeneration, set targets, define action plans, and explore scenario analyses to align your business with environmental goals. Understanding environmental risks starts with a global perspective. Through XNatura's environmental platform, it is possible to focus on specific sites, providing real-time data. XNatura integrates artificial intelligence, IoT sensors, satellite technologies, and cloud computing to provide advanced environmental analysis and precision engineering tools. Landscapes are constantly evolving, shaped by both nature and human activity. Understanding and monitoring these impacts is essential to preserving biodiversity. Data alone is not enough. Human expertise makes the difference. The combination of IoT sensors, AI, and experts ensures that insights are accessible and usable by all stakeholders, supporting informed strategies. From assessment to regeneration, set targets, define action plans, and explore scenario analyses to align your business with environmental goals. Understanding environmental risks starts with a global perspective. Through XNatura's environmental platform, it is possible to focus on specific sites, providing real-time data. XNatura integrates artificial intelligence, IoT sensors, satellite technologies, and cloud computing to provide advanced environmental analysis and precision engineering tools. Landscapes are constantly evolving, shaped by both nature and human activity. Understanding and monitoring these impacts is essential to preserving biodiversity. Data alone is not enough. Human expertise makes the difference. The combination of IoT sensors, AI, and experts ensures that insights are accessible and usable by all stakeholders, supporting informed strategies. From assessment to regeneration, set targets, define action plans, and explore scenario analyses to align your business with environmental goals.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Today, we're going to talk about how we integrate nature into real estate certification. So this webinar is actually on LEED BREEAM WELL certification. We're going to see how nature project and nature data actually can help you obtain some of these certification. And additionally, at the end of this session, we're going to see how one of our clients, GARC in particular, has used our feature, the scenario analysis feature, to make a new urban planning for the urban planning activities. So today, those are all the colleagues that are going to join me. We have Eduardo, Business Development, Riccardo, he's our NATO strategist, and we'll join also Maria Giobertoni. She has worked as a sustainability intern at GARC. So she will talk about the urban planning project I was mentioning. So this is the lineup for today. So I'm gonna do like a very, very brief introduction of XNatura for the one of you that don't know us. But then I will leave the stage to Eduardo. He's gonna make an introduction about all the certification, and in particular, he's gonna focus on how nature data and nature project can improve the score for this certification and how to obtain it. Then we're going to have an actual demo with Ricardo on a case study, on a real case study we've done to get the BREEAM In-Use certification. Then we have Maria with the urban planning regeneration project with GARC, and finally, as we always have, we have the Q&A session, the last 10 minutes. But of course, if you have questions during the session, you can just leave them on the chat and we are going to answer at the end of everything. So for the one of you that don't know us, we are XNatura. We are an environmental platform. We are 60 people. Most of us work in the R&D team and in the nature strategies team. We have already around the world more than 10,000 IoT devices that are like detecting nature data on the field. We are mapping more than 1 million hectares around the world, and those are some of the research centers like and other like partners like European Space Agency we partner with in order to power our technologies. Let's say that we monitor biodiversity through different technologies. Most of the data we get them from remote sensing, but not only that. We have developed sensor based on bioacoustics, on image recognition to detect pollinators, birds, mammals, bats. And we also complete our analysis with lab analysis and on-field survey, always done with technology and with our Biodiversa app. We work with companies like private companies in the food sector, in the real estate sector, in manufacturing and infrastructure. We also work with municipalities and natural parks. So, as I said, I leave the stage to Eduardo, and he's gonna give us an idea of all these certification and how we can actually get a good score with nature project.
Perfect. Thanks, Virginia. Very nice to meet you, everybody. I'm Eduardo. I follow all new partnerships and business development at XNatura. So my role today is really to start from really understanding what like a fundamental relationship that is there between biodiversity and real estate. So of course, healthy real estate depends heavily on what healthy ecosystem can provide. So thinking about natural flood regulation, urban cooling through vegetation, so avoiding heat islands, especially important in the summer, and we know it well in Milan, water filtration and pollination. We know that at the same time, when we have unchecked real estate developments, this can cause, of course, habitat destruction, severe soil sealing, and our cities become basically unable to breathe. Also, the real estate sector, of course, faces some significant risks related to climate and only climate change, extreme water events. So we have floods that are coming more and more, wildfires, and also a transition risk that is coming to the market. So whether these natural activities are happening a lot, the market attractiveness declines, and of course, there's increasing regulation and public pressure. So this is just an intro to say that integrating biodiversity is not only like ecological responsibility, we say, but is also active part of risk management. So having this like top of mind during the presentation, I think is quite important. So At the moment, of course, we know that certifications were a tool in the past to, in a way, enhance and help companies into achieve companies and developers into achieving natural standards, natural goal. We now know that investor demand is also asking for this type of ESG screening. The tenants, of course, are also expecting a certain type of performance, and there's also credibility of the market itself that needs to be sustained. So these are just some examples of how the certifications are actually, say, a translation into a language that the market can understand of why those items are important. It can be also bankable in a way. So of course, there's a very important focus that is put on the ecological assessment pre-opera and after the development has been completed. There's a big focus on habitats, whether it's restoration or not harming habitats when we're talking about new developments, maintaining ecological corridor connectivity. So all these factors that say regulators are trying to push and maintain on one side, but that we see more and more in cities that might not be always checked and kept under the right consideration. So I'm sure you are familiar with the certification, but just to give you an idea, so I will go through LEED, BREEAM, for new and in-use BREEAM, and also the WELL certification. And then we will see later on how the XNatura platform is supporting you in assessing the development and also getting basically better scores for everything that's related to nature and ecology. So starting with the BREEAM part, with the LEED certification, is, let's say, the most widely used, developed by the US Green Building Council, and is basically focused on the building itself and is performed through the entire life cycle. So not only starting from what is today, basically just keeping into account that the building will be there for as long as possible and assessing how sustainable would this be with time. Then we have, of course, the BREEAM certification that is, is widely used for sure in Europe, in the UK. Here we are looking at a broader approach when it comes to nature and ecology. This is a specific focus on biodiversity. So in this case, we are looking at not only the building life cycle itself, we're also looking at the space that the building is occupying in a certain habitat and how this context is disrupted or potentially not disrupted by the building itself. What are the companies trying to basically do to not harm the environment too much, and when they do, trying to keep it into account when they have to then restore what was there before. So as I was mentioning, for BREEAM, we are currently working, and you will hear from Riccardo later on that is working with the nature strategies team and on multiple BREEAM projects. We, of course, are able to support on both new construction and in-use projects when it comes to the BREEAM certification. Here is just a quick glimpse of what BREEAM new construction considers into the LE category. So 5 issues, starting from the site selection, which you will see that when we assess sites and when we make projects with clients, is something that we can start considering by nature, by how the XNatura platform was built. So we start with a site selection, and is also the approach that BREEAM is taking. Then is looking into ecological risk and opportunities. So understanding how the situation is on the site, basically understanding which are some of the zone of influence, for example, high biodiversity areas, natural areas that are of meaningful importance, both under a social perspective, but mostly a natural perspective. Managing impacts. So you might know about the mitigation hierarchy. So preferring to avoid a disruption or potential impact when possible. Whether it's not possible, of course, BREEAM is taking into account how companies are minimizing, compensate, and then with time enhancing the performance of their building and developments in general. Ecological enhancement, so quietly tied with what we will consider a nature strategy. So what would be the output in terms of recognition and advising from our side when putting in place the different indications, and long-term management. So same as it was for the LEED, also the BREEAM certification is putting emphasis into understanding that the building is there not only for today, but is supposed to be there for a long period of time. So landscape and ecology management plan with defined responsibilities, KPI, is paramount when it comes to understanding the full life cycle of the buildings. Then also for what we consider as in-use, Virginia was mentioning that the case that we'll see later on with Ricardo is concerning a BREEAM In-Use type of project. I just wanted to bring, other than the different issues that the BREEAM In-Use considers, I want to bring a good example of what we did recently, for example, with a big retail player that is active in Europe. We basically were able to really digitalize all the ecology report, so the management performance part, LUE 03 and 04, in terms of ecology report, technical biodiversity assessment on the site, and then the management plan. So really trying to lie down some important, say, aspect and key milestones for the client to achieve a better BREEAM In-Use result. Moving on to the WELL certification, which is not specifically or directly focusing on nature, but more closely on what the human health is of the people and the well-being of the people that are one side renting or working these types of building. So while there's not a direct impact in terms of requiring certain characteristics under a, say, natural point of view, it goes very well with the fact that a building that has a very good natural characteristics and scores well on BREEAM, for example, will probably also do well on the WELL certification, because the things that are considered here is the holistic view of the human that is living these types of buildings. So, for example, what is the planning of green spaces, the biophilic design in terms of integration of natural elements, vegetation. So all of this part is something that the WELL certification takes into account when looking to scoring basically well or not certain projects and certain buildings. So try to keep this part as short as possible, because I know that probably everybody of you is already familiar with the certification and what's inside, but it was really important for me to lay down the ground in order to show you how then we turn this certification getting and scoring into our approach and output, basically. So basically with the XNatura platform, we follow the LEAP approach when it comes to of course, the location, evaluation, assessment, and then prepare in terms of reporting. So as you will also see with the demo, we have different layers of information inside the platform XNatura. So the satellite imaging, the starting and is smart to recognize the different land use on the site, detecting biodiversity hotspot by integrating open source databases at a worldwide level. So as Virginia was mentioning, we work in different industries with different verticals. We have projects worldwide, and we have good granularity of data regardless of the geography in which we're operating. Then there's the evaluation part. So the platform is getting all this data, aggregating them in KPIs that are now more than 35 on the platform, that actually make sense for under a nature, biodiversity, and also risk assessment point of view. And we then assess what are the nature-related impacts and dependencies. So really helping our clients understand their reliance on ecosystem services and the effects they have on nature and biodiversity. So as we saw at the beginning, is a two-way sort of relationship. Then the assessment part, we basically, as I was mentioning, you will see on the platform, there are key indicators for every part of the platform. So whether we're assessing nature, physical risk, we will have like clear and lie down KPIs. And then there's also the prepare part. So once we've done the first assessment, the nature strategy consultants team comes in and supports the preparing of the reports, and also trying to understand what can be a path forward. So a development and a transition plan to hit your targets and basically enhance your performance. So similarly to how we work, of course, the certifications steps are similar. There's a part on data collection that's also critical, of course. So having the right data that are basically auditable at any point in time, and the platform is very transparent in this aspect. Risk analysis and certification ready KPIs, so having the right data in the right structure for the right certification that you will want to achieve. Then the strategy development part, and then the reporting. So what I've done in my strategy makes sense, is something that I am able to hit constantly, and you will see basically how the strategy is working. So I'll stop briefly on the data collection, because we spoke about remote assessment through satellite. We also, as Virginia was mentioning at the beginning, operate IoT sensors that are focusing on bioacoustics mostly for pollinators and birds, also camera traps, and we also operate biomonitoring through beehives, digitalized beehive through our HiveTech sensor. We also are able in the platform to digitalize every on-field survey. So starting from historical data that were gathered on the site to new gatherings of flora. For example, the Biodiverse app is a great tool, and we are using it more and more when it comes to BREEAM In-Use certification and reporting. The Biodiverse app, just very quickly, is an app, it's free to download, is automatically connected with the XNatura platform. It can be used very well by either managers of the buildings to do basically a quick survey on the flora, or by our ecologists that are then able to sign off the reporting concerning the ecological activity. Then there's a part on risk analysis and site prioritization. So this is particularly important for us when we're looking to and working with clients that have a diversified portfolio, perhaps scattered around the world or in different geographies. It's important for us to help them understand which type of assets are, say, the most exposed to certain nature and risks, which assets are the ones that are harming the environment the most. So in other words, the ones that will be less likely to achieve a very good scoring when it comes to LEED or BREEAM certification. And in this way, they can quickly, in an integrated view, they can quickly, basically, with the strategy team, decide whether prioritize one asset or the other when it comes to enhancement of performance or improvement plans of any kind. You always start with the analysis of the various risks. So this is just quickly something that you will see with Ricardo later on. So how for BREEAM new construction and for BREEAM In-Use, how the platform will support in terms of the KPIs that will be specifically there and to look for in the platform. So I'll stop by quickly on the BREEAM In-Use, just because it will be helpful for the case later on. So you see that for the different credit, we have multiple KPIs that are basically assessing whether it is flood risk, whether it's the water runoffs, the different hazards, natural and not only natural hazards, what is planted surfaces. So as mentioned, starting with the land use and understanding how impermeability is doing in the site, but also ecological quality and all the part of on-field data that is done, collected through either the app or through the IoT sensors that you will see later on. Then the strategy development part. So as mentioned, we also follow internally a sort of mitigation hierarchy in terms of the advice and the type of reporting output will be under the guidance of avoiding, if possible, to harm. Then if it's impossible to do that, try to minimize that impact, that harm as much as possible. And then developing plans that are long-term. So this is also important when it comes to certifications. So for example, if you are doing a new development, starting with a plan that is long-term in terms of are you planning of restore and then basically enhance your environmental performance from the start, will be very good seen, and also what we expect in terms of type of time frame in which our clients operate in. Also the integration of potential nature-based solution, so green corridors, and generally speaking, try to restore habitats as much as possible. Living walls, we know there are some solutions that are well thought for the cities and like urban context in general, and then target setting. So if we don't know where we want to go, we can't start with a proper strategy plan. Target setting is particularly important for us because it allows also the client transparently from the beginning to see over the years how the performance will improve, and basically if the certification will also reflect in an improvement scoring. Just a final part on the reporting and certification delivery. Basically, everything will be available in the platform, and the strategy team supports you in either automatically download the reporting that is already certification ready, so you can include them as add-ons to the reporting, but also we are able to, as I was mentioning before, especially for BREEAM, we are able to write the ecology reports and the assessment for what is a land use and ecology section specifically. So now there will be Ricardo taking over. So as Virginia was mentioning, is one of the nature strategists. Half of the company is nature strategists at XNatura. So we really put a focus on what the client delivery and excellence is. So we will be looking into the BREEAM In-Use case that Virginia was anticipating. So I'll leave it to Ricardo.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Ricardo. My colleagues have already presented me. So we will see together now a case study on how the XNatura platform can support the user in complying with the BREEAM Land Use and Ecology section requirements. Here we will see 4 main requirements, 2 about asset performance and 2 about management performance. The first 2 are regarding planted areas in itself and the ecological features, while the final part will focus on the ecology report and biodiversity management plan. Now let's look at a requirement, the first one, the planted area. These requirements works in this way. So we have a question with a possible set of answers that gives a different amount of credits. And then we have other sections such as the assessment criteria and the methodology that guides the analysis. So now let's look into the platform to understand how to use that to meet this requirement. The XNatura platform can register the site analyzed, this pink perimeter, and a buffer area surrounding it, this gray perimeter, and provides a different range, several KPI metrics regarding land use, microclimate, biodiversity state, and risks. And a big part of these KPIs depends on the land use, which basically represents how the site is occupying the soil. So whether with, for example, in this case, industrial commercial units, so artificial surfaces, or with more natural parts, so natural grasslands, for example, but even focusing more on a higher level of detail, for example, the species one, so with rosmarinus or false jasmine. So different level of granularity. And all these land use classes have associated a value for the several metrics that the platform analyze. So in the assessment section, we can look at these outputs. In particular, here in the land use section, we can look at this table to answer to the first question, which is the planted area share. Here we can sum the natural and agricultural shares. Here agriculture is recognized from species, and to obtain the final share of planted area, in this case about 12%. Now, returning to the slides, we can see, for example, that in this case we would position the site in the answer number, the answer C, so with 1 credit given for this credit. Now let's look something a little more challenging, such as the second credit, the ecological features of planted area. In this case, we have to say that the assessment criteria quantify and specifies which types of ecological features we are analyzing, which are planted area that we have already seen, planters, alternative planted area, such as green roofs, and features that supports local fauna. And in this case, the question is about the number of them, so from 0 to 4, and their value. So if they are properly dimensioned, if they comprehend autochthonous species, and in this case also for features for ecological for fauna, the number. And in this case, we are referring to bag hotels, nesting boxes. So the number should be appropriate to the dimension of the site. So returning to the platform, here we can see that the platform recognizes the presence of boxes, of nesties, so to understand where they are positioned and to evaluate the strategical position of them and their number in comparison to the site size. As regards planted areas, we have already seen how to quantify their presence, but we can also see if they contribute to local fauna and if they are composed of autochthonous species by using the survey and census section. In this section, we can filter for taxonomy. In this case, let's look at flora. And we can see how many observations we have. And we can understand the type of the species, the date of recognition, and the presence of native or alien species. In this case, we can filter by native species. We know that about 80% are autochthonous in this sense, so we can demonstrate that the presence of autochthonous species is predominant, and we can count the individuals, the different species, and indexes about diversity, equitability. For local fauna, we can monitor its presence by using the same filter, but with fauna, to understand if the features are attracting or not fauna with the same filter, so for alien and autochthonous species. Now let's move to the next credit, which is the first about management performance. So something more challenging, even more challenging in this case. And we have the ecology report. The question here is pretty simple, because it is about whether an ecology report has been carried out and reported on in the last 3 years. And the methodology section highlights the points that should be touched by this ecology report. In this case, we have the current and potential ecological value and condition of the site, both in terms of site and area of influence, so that buffer area that we have already seen. Then there is the evaluation of direct and indirect risks to this ecological value, and the capacity and feasibility for enhancement of the ecological value of this site. Now let's go to the XNatura platform, and let's look how it helps the user here. So for the outputs, we look at the assessment, and we can see a wide range of metrics in this section here about, for example, biodiversity. Here we can see how the matrix works with the upper part, so the upper number, which focuses on what happened inside the site, so inside this pink perimeter, while the lower part focuses on the outside area. We have matrix about mean species abundance with a focus on terrestrial species, and we can see always here the definition and the values. But we can go also a little deeper and focus on other taxa, for example, pollinators, to understand the availability of nesting sites, so houses for them, and of flora availability, so food, which together combined can calculate a relative abundance of pollinators to have an insight. These are metrics calculated based on the land use, but it is possible to add on-field measurement with sensor, for example, here for pollinators. Let's look at the 2025 to have a complete view of the wall here. We can look at the total amount of recognitions, the diversity in terms of clusters of pollinators based on the range of fly, the frequency of fly, and we can understand so abundance and diversity with also an understanding of their pattern, the seasonal pattern of presence, with the possibility to understand day by day, month by month, and even during the day, the particular range of hours in which the activity is focused, to understand how to mitigate the impact on them. But it's not all the platform offers, since as shown before, we can look also at an observation point of view, so more granular with the use of biodiversity, which is completely autonomous, to understand the ecological value in terms also of particular species that are present. So to understand if they are autochthonous, if they produce nectar, this kind of information, giving all the necessary for the quantification of the ecological value. The second point is about the direct and indirect risks to this ecological value. In this case, we can go always in the KPI metric section, but in the risks cluster of metrics. Here we can see, for example, the land temperature, which is a driver for of risk of impact on plants, since it affects the availability of water. And for example, light pollution, which is critical generally in the real estate sector, which is another direct impact driver, since, for example, nocturnal birds in presence of high levels of light pollution does not fly. So it is an important driver to understand. These two metrics regard what happens inside the site and outside, but we can also evaluate the impact on the external ecological value. For example, by looking at the presence of protected areas in between a range of 25 kilometers. So with all this information, it is possible for the biodiversity strategist or for the asset manager to write this ecology report and to identify major or minor recommendation to implement in order to achieve the maximum possible number of credits for this section. So the last credit that we are going to see, the last requirement, is about biodiversity management plan, which basically asks whether there is a biodiversity management plan in place, and in case if its objective is to enhance the ecological value or to maintain it. In this case, the platform is pretty useful, since it allows to, first of all, put targets. So identify targets of regeneration for possible enhancement based on several benchmarks, such as the competitive benchmark, the surrounding territory, so the context that we have seen here in gray here, so based on the value of the KPIs calculated here. And another interesting thing is that if we have changes in the site and they are reporting in the Land Use section between years and year, we can compare these values between years with changes, like here from 12.9 to 16.5, to highlight the effective impact of this management plan on biodiversity conservation and the ecological value. We can also look at this particular thing in the scenario section, which is made for the comparison. Here we can see in parallel two different versions of the land use to highlight differences between years, and we can look also at the absolute variation or at the differential variation between these the years in the KPIs by selecting a proper baseline. Now we select, for example, 2023, since it's the first year, and look at how these KPIs changes to demonstrate, have the proof of the value of the biodiversity management plan and of the in general management of biodiversity in the site. So with all this information, it is possible to meet this requirement and answer to this credit. So which are the main takeovers of this case study? It shows how the XNatura platform is supporting the BREEAM Land Use and Ecology application by facilitating and making faster the collection of the input of the data and the analysis of the outputs. It also provides a scientifically robust foundation for the data provided, and also gives a high degree of autonomy, since the observation can be made with just your phone and an app, for example, for biodiversa, or by simply reporting changes between year and year in the land use section. So I would like to thank you for your attention and hand over to Virginia.
Great. Thank you, Riccardo. So now, as I said, we're going to have a look at this project about urban planning in a neighborhood that's like 20,000 hectares with a park. And it seems that there is no connection with the certification, but actually there is, because, I mean, it's a step back. So we can use the platform, yes, of course, to get the certification, but before we could also use the platform to preview, to replan some residential areas, some buildings, in order to be more in line and to have less impact on biodiversity and to improve ecological services on the area. And then, of course, once we have done the planning and we have put all the action to put in place the plan, we can actually, ask for the certificate, make the certification process. So it's like a step back. So Maria is gonna show us what we have done with the XNatura platform on this urban planning project with GARC.
Thank you, Virginia. Hello, everyone. I am Maria Giubertoni, and I worked as the sustainability intern at GARC SPA. I will briefly present the project that I have been working on. And as Virginia rightly said, this project was held in the city center of Modena, in a small neighborhood, in a very anthropized situation. So we are near the city center, and the share that you can see in the left part of the slide represent the situation, the initial situation of the building layout. So the red part is the building, the cementified one, and the green is the land share that was also Riccardo showing, thanks to the scenarios function that represented the green area. Always in the same image, so the left image, but in the right part you can see the new share of the ratio of the building layout and the green areas. That is different, slightly different, because thanks to the scenarios function, which is this smart feature that is actually available on the XNatura platform, the user can actually make real-time comparisons between the requalification scenarios that wants to pursue. So thanks to these features, we can actually see what are the differences and the gains that we can actually achieve thanks to an urban planning or an urban regeneration project. In the right part of the slide, the top right is the current building layout, so how is actually presented the situation in the area of this small neighbor in the Modena city center, while in the bottom right part you can see what would look like the project once the restoration and the regeneration works have finished. In the following slide, I wanted to highlight a little bit the key indicators that are actually the ones that has been already mentioned by Riccardo previously, and the ones that were actually keys to study the impacts from environmental, social, and economic point of view of this regeneration were the urban heat island and the land surface temperature, as well as the soil impermeability, which was a very important point, since that the flooding hazard and the flooding events occurring in the Po plain are quite concerning this time, as well as Eduardo said before about the hazardous events that can occur and can be monitored actually thanks to this platform. And we focused also on the local biodiversity abundance. So we wanted also to improve the situation thanks to the scenarios function. We can actually see that there is an improve. That depends, of course, on the developing the part of green infrastructures and also a green share of composed by parks, trees, and so on. So the study of this part is actually very useful because this leads to for instance, the presence, there is more abundance and more diversity of species. Finally, we focused also on the light and noise pollution that are actually fundamental when it comes about evaluating the livability of a place rather than another. To conclude, I wanted to say that this work was actually all done before the regeneration took part, because we wanted to achieve which were the key aspects and the key points that would be able to strengthen the project. And in terms of certification, of course, this is also connected, because all this work, all the parameters that the key indicators rely on are already included in the legislation, national and international, that are actually the one most important to obtain the certification. So working on this data that are actually based on a huge set of data that comes from many international database, all the information that we gather are actually already included potentially in all the certification that we were mentioning before about people well-being, but also environmental and ecosystem well-being. I am done, and I thank you for your attention. I leave the word back to Virginia for the conclusions.
Great, thank you, Maria. So just to let you know, those are some of the companies that have chosen us on the real estate project. Of course, we have many more clients also in other sectors. As I said, we work in the agri-food, infrastructure, and the energy. But today, of course, we really focus on real estate since we are talking about this certification. I just wanted to update you on the next event we're going to join. Of course, in the meantime, if you have any question you want asked to answer in the last 10 minutes, feel free to write them on the chat. So I'm going to be from tomorrow until Friday in Villars, which is in Switzerland, for this summit, for this event. So if you're going to be there, I would like to grab a coffee with you. And my colleague, Lucrezia, she'll be tomorrow in an event in Italy called Settimana della Sostenibilità. So before jumping on the question, just let you know that all of you will receive the slide of the webinar, but you can also go on our website and have a look at the white papers we have done so far. And there is also one really focusing on real estate sector. Okay, so Riccardo and Eduardo, they're going to join me for the questions. So the first question we received, I think, is for Eduardo. So the question is, how does your data collection contribute to open shared global data availability like GBF?
Yep. So thank you for the question, Axel. So the idea is that we are already integrating all the major open source databases when it comes to nature, biodiversity, natural event, etc. So we are already working and integrating in the platform. Of course, the ESA satellite data, the Stanford Invest, and the data coming from Globio. So the Globio model, especially for the biodiversity estimate at the remote assessment. On top of this, all the recordings that are done through the Biodiverse app are also contributing. So our primary data coming from the Biodiverse app is also contributing to the European Biodiversity Database. So this is just to give you an idea of the different data availabilities and how they compare.
Thank you. So Eva is asking us, can you explain or present a little bit in detail the type of KPIs used for the evaluation part? So Riccardo, I don't know if you can also still share, because we have time. So if you want to share the platform, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I am gonna share it. So 2 seconds. Here we are. Okay. The KPI matrix presented in the platform belongs to these classes. So we have a matrix about land use, which directly represents what the land use section presents. So the presence of roads, artificial, agricultural, natural, freshwater, and seawater cover from a high level point of view, with analysis of natural habitats, impermeable land, water coverage, trees per citizen, and NDVI indexes for vegetation. Then we can move to urbanization status with degree of urbanization and population and socioeconomic context. Then we have microclimate measures about warming stripes, heating stripes, climate change, or the trend, so for future and for present. And then state biodiversity, which are the core metrics. And now there is the mean species abundance that then we'll focus on for the next question, and presence of protected area, metrics on pollinators, and yes, basically these ones. And then we can move to risks, which is the final cluster that covers risks such as the hydrogeological, water, and landslides. Finally, concluding with the measurement, but only with sensor, which are other kind of metrics and of charts.
Great.
The
So,
overview.
Alex is asking another question. The displayed abundance of species is calculated on what base? In my point of view, is not approved until you have used you have used your sensor or observation, correct?
Okay, so let's return to the platform here, and let's look at the MSA. Now, I just want to clear that every kind of this question is directly answered by the platform itself with the point of question here. So the MSA, it's a metric based on the Globio model. So it's a scientifically robust metric which calculates the average presence of species, terrestrial in this case, compared to their presence in an undisturbed scenario. So it is not based on our observation, but it is based on the land use recognized in the site, which can be both recognized by satellite imagery by us, or given as an input by the client through survey, for example, to make the analysis more punctual and more precise. So it's not only based on our observation, but it can be modified and also simulated in the future based on the land use score.
Also, Alex is asking if we have an interface to add eDNA results as well.
Okay, here I cannot show it, but I can prove, yes, we have it, and the platform is designed to receive as input other kind of laboratory analysis, for example, eDNA. We also provide them in case of need of necessary, but also we can receive it as an input. Yes.
And we have the last question, still from Alex. Could you shortly highlight the differences between XNatura and I Love Natura, especially in regards of the data collection?
Yeah, thank you for all this question, Axel. And here the difference is simple. So the XNatura platform is the complete tool with all the layer of the observation and everything in a single place, with the possibility enhanced respect to the I Love Natura platform, which is a public site that can make the user getting familiar with our instruments. So, for example, if in XNatura platform we have 200 layers available in the same time, on the I Love Natura you will have a credit-based experience. So just a few layers can be used in the same time, and there are limitations on the site size, for example. But also, I Love Natura is helpful since it contains the documentation, we can say, of all the KPIs and all the metrics. So with the source and the interpretation.
Great. So we have done with the question. Thank you all for joining us today. And I think this is going to be the last webinar, since we are organizing a physical event in Milan for May, and then we're back with the back webinars in September. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Understanding environmental risks starts with a global perspective. Through XNatura's environmental platform, it is possible to focus on specific sites, providing real-time data. XNatura integrates artificial intelligence, IoT sensors, satellite technologies, and cloud computing to provide advanced environmental analysis and precision engineering tools. Landscapes are constantly evolving, shaped by both nature and human activity. Understanding and monitoring these impacts is essential to preserving biodiversity. Data alone is not enough. Human expertise makes the difference. The combination of IoT sensors, AI, and experts ensures that insights are accessible and usable by all stakeholders, supporting informed strategies. From assessment to regeneration, set targets, define action plans, and explore scenario analyses to align your business with environmental goals.